Hey guys, we have yet another video with a case review for you, and today we are reviewing Lian Li Lancool 217. This is an upgraded version from the last generation, and this particular one features some genuine wood. Let's open up and have a look what we got inside. This is the case that we got, which is a mid-sized tower, and as you can see straight away it comes with this wooden trim. It's not too much wood on this, it's more of a kind of just edges, just to kind of highlight a bit of a aesthetic flair. Let's open up and see what we actually got inside of it. I'm gonna just go start with the top and kind of work my way around. So with the top panel, we have a mesh at the top, and it's not a removable mesh. I don't think, nope, it's not removable, but it can be cleaned. You could technically remove it, but you'd have to twist these little bits, so it's probably not really designed for that. But it's going to be easy to clean as it is. At the top, you actually do have a little power button, and it just kind of goes through to the top over here. Then we've got the side panel. There's no screws so far. There's not been any screws. We've got a nice, it's kind of a medium-sized side panel because the bottom section is actually covered with another panel. So for the bottom section, you have a little thumb screw to open up the little power supply section. And again, it's a mesh down here too. Then we have a little nice bit of packing actually. There's some packing material over here just to kind of protect the case and how things are. Then for the front, let's see, does it open from top or bottom? Just gonna pull it out. For the front, we also have mesh. It's not that fine. So I think all of the mesh panels are similar size in porosity. So this is something that's kind of special about with this particular case. It comes with 5 total fans. We have 270mm thicker 30mm fans at the front. We've also got 220mm fans at the bottom. These are inverted blades, so they actually push air this way, but the way they look, it makes it look more clean. And then the more standard 140mm exhaust fan at the back over here. So a total of 5 fans. Front 2 and the bottom 2 are actually toolless. And what I mean by that is they have a little rubber inserts where you can actually lift them and move them around, because there are 2 configurations you could do at the front. The 2 configurations are like this in the default mode, where you have a little gap in between. But what you can do is you can remove these plates and then you can actually move the fans back and forth. They have a configuration which is like CPU focused, where you remove this panel and this panel and move both fans to the top, so you have more air circulation towards the CPU cooler, which is really cool. But then obviously you would sacrifice a little bit of air circulation towards the graphics card, which will sit at the bottom. But because of the additional fans at the bottom here, you get plenty of circulation anyway. Also, these bottom 2 fans can actually be mounted below here, but that also means you'd need to sacrifice the hard drive cage. But we'll get to that in a bit. For the back, we also have no thumb screws or anything, and again, a little bit more mesh at the bottom. There's one more mesh filter for the bottom, which is for the power supply. I believe that's it. Yeah, there's nothing else at the bottom. Got an accessory box here, and again, way more packing material, which is very nice. It's everywhere. That's actually very surprising. For a case of this price, this is not the most expensive case in the market. The black version like we have right here is $120, and the same case in white with, I believe they use oak, is $125. So it's very reasonable. While we're at the back here, I immediately see a few cool things. First of all, there's literal 3 rows for cable management. And you already have the cable ties here, the ones with a little loop, so you can actually tighten them up and have them in place for good. Then what you also have is a fan headers at the top. So you have a total of, let me just double check, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 connectors. And you also have RGB here, 1, 2, 3, and 4 RGB ports. So you have plenty of connectivity here that you can actually utilize for your fans. Then at the back here, we have 2 SSD slots, just an easy little brackets to remove. Again, just out, you install it, and just bring it back down. And you will also notice that you have big cutouts. This particular case supports back to front motherboards, meaning you can have motherboards which have connectors going backwards to keep the front of the case quite clean, which is really nice. On the front side, we have a GPU bracket, so you can just unscrew it at the back and lift it to whatever you want to maintain your GPUs straight up, in case you get a bit of a sag. This case also supports vertical mounting, and this is actually why you would move these fans below if you wanted to mount your GPU in a vertical orientation, because this back section can be inverted and you can actually screw things down like you would. The only thing they don't provide is the PCI extension cable needs to be purchased separately, but you're able to mount it if needed. Then in terms of SSDs, you can actually mount an additional SSD over here. There's actually the 4 screws in the nicely spaced here, so you can actually mount another SSD if you wanted to. All right, let's have a look at these fans. So let's see how easy they are to move. Ah, look at that. And they come off. So you can see the little, basically it's a screw with a little rubber grommet. And once you've put it in, put it into a hole and just slide it into place. And that's nice and solid now. Just quickly, easily remove those. Because what you might want to do is you might want to unplug them here and move them below. It's literally as simple as this. Which is going to be also very convenient if you're working on something. Here you go. You've got fans pointing upwards now to push air straight into the graphics card that will be here. And it opens up the whole bunch of space. That's cool. And literally the same process goes for the front. So you can see same grommet over here. So you could do the same process. So if I take off the top panel, you make sure that it's in on all 4. Boom. So these panels have limitations. There's specific spots around the case where they can be mounted. You can actually see here. So you've got the little indent here, and 2 indents here. The way it's designed, that you'd probably just upgrade it to push both fans up, like this, all the way to the top. So you do the bottom fan first, slide into spot. Then you can slide the top one. And then these, you put the little dot there, line them up. Little tongue there, and line them up. There you go, that was a quick upgrade. I'm going to move it back because we're going to be using this for testing later on, and I want to see what it's going to be, what kind of performance we're going to have in its default configuration. These are not the easiest to take out, so you might want to use a screwdriver in case you don't have any nails. So it actually kind of hurt a little bit. But it goes down. You just need to make sure you install them into the holes so they don't just wobble for you for no reason. Then you can take this one off again. Into the holes and push it down. Nice and solid. I like this. It's a cool little upgrade. The other funky thing you have is at the bottom. So what you'll see by default on the back, the power supply cage is covered. Why is it? Well, there's a reason for it. This actual case supports power supply mounted in a more normal orientation, where you install it from the back here and it will just stick out and the cables be pointing that way. And you might want to have it that way if you have a really big power supply, for example something up to 220 mil. So you can have it stick out and then maybe even cover some of the drive cages, but if you have a big power supply, that makes sense. But if you use a very small power supply, what you can do, you can actually have it offset to 90 degrees and have your cables pointing this way. So what you have is a little power adapter that connects from the bottom. You can install your power supply here with the cables pointing this way at a 90-degree angle, and then you can take this cable that's provided, You can loop it around and just plug it in from the back. So you have the on-off switch on the front of this side of the panel, and then the cables come out this way. What that gives you is easy accessibility to the cables, so you can just route them quickly. It's easy to set up, and ultimately it doesn't matter because the airflow for the power supply is still coming from the bottom. And since the side is also meshed, you still have ability to push the air out of the power supply, which is really, really nice. So I've mentioned the backside with the cable routing. As far as the front is concerned, you still have multiple areas here, and you have two sets of cutouts. And there's a reason for that. You might actually want to remove this if you're using a bigger motherboard. If you have an E-ATX motherboard, which goes all the way out to here, you can actually install it and still have cable cutouts to routing all the cables, which is pretty cool. Also, I like that they have two big cutouts at the bottom here. It's for both the GPU cables and also just to route the little cables that go below, or rather just come straight from the bottom, which makes it easier for me personally. Right, let's talk about the accessories that come in the box. This is the main pack. So in here, we have a few meshes and also some brackets. So these are the brackets that are to convert the front of the case to support 120 or 140 mil fans. I don't know why you would buy a case of this size with two big fans at the front and then convert them, but if you wanted to, you could. You also got little grills that come with it as well. And in here, this is really cool. Screws in an organized container box. I absolutely love when manufacturers do this. It just makes it so much easier. You have all the items that you need. Having a little box with all your accessories in one place is awesome, and you can organize it first and then just have it ready for you whenever you need it in the future. That's really cool. I definitely support that. Next, we have caddies. So you've got two cages for your hard drives. And this is where you have some caveats. If you kept your fans the way they are right now, they will actually obstruct the drive cages. You actually cannot have both the drive cage and fans installed at the same time with them being fully populated. So the way these go in, so you can install it like this, but what you find is the fan is now mostly obstructed by the cage, and also now you have a lot less space at the top to mount an additional drive. So be warned, you might have almost no performance coming out of those fans if you do it this way. But the cages are easy to install. You just click in, and then you have the little drive sleds. And what you can do is you can install a 3.5-inch drive at the top, and you can actually install a 2.5-inch drive at the bottom. So you can have two drives installed to one caddy. So there's plenty of space to mount your drives. It's not going to be big enough to mount, huge amount of drives for an NAS, but for a gaming/work PC, there's definitely plenty. And with the wooden accents, I could see this being a work PC. Last little thing I want to talk about before we get into the review of the performance is the buttons. So I've already mentioned the power button at the top, but what you'll also find is it has a second power button down below here. And that's because for a case like this, you might consider installing this on your desk as well. It just makes it a lot more convenient. And then you also have two USB-A ports and a USB Type-C port at the bottom. So you actually have plenty of coverage here. But what you've noticed is, as it stands right now, the case does not have any RGB. Yes, it has RGB headers for the fan controller, but the main accent here is wood, not necessarily lighting. Let's get into the testing results with our standardized test bench and see how it delivers. After unboxing and going over the design, let's talk about what it's like to actually build in the Lancool 217. While it might look simple at first glance, there are a lot of thoughtful features baked in there, like the fan brackets. Now, radiator support. You can only mount radiators at the top of the case, and here's the key bit. You're limited by the total thickness. For the 280mm rad, you have 60mm of clearance, and for the 360, you get up to 83mm. So if you're pairing it with a thicker radiators or chunky fans, double check your clearances. When it comes to component clearance, you got GPU clearance up to 380mm in length and 182mm in height, PSU support of up to 220mm, and CPU cooler clearances up to 180mm. So plenty of headroom for high-end gear. Just watch out if you're going for a tall dual tower air cooler. It might be tight if you have top-mounted fans. The built-in fan and RGB hub has a long enough cable to be routed just about anywhere, so no awkward reach around to the top of the motherboard. But not everything is perfect. For instance, the bottom cable hole is quite small. You can only push one cable through at a time, so if you're working with bundled cables or tight spacing, expect to be patient. It's not a deal breaker, just something I noticed. The PSU button is tucked under the mesh panel, which looks clean, but it also means if you need to quickly power off the system in an emergency, you'll probably have to yank the cable instead. Cable management overall is solid, especially with those Velcro loops pre-installed behind the motherboard tray. But when you mount the PSU sideways, the cables stick out a bit in an awkward angle. That said, the side panel still closes easily, so it's more of a visual quirk than a functional problem. Swapping from default mode to CPU mode is very quick, it takes just a few minutes. That kind of flexibility is rare and really appreciated here. One last small win is the front panel, which uses magnets. It feels premium, it pops off cleanly and reattaches without fuss. That's how you should be doing your front removable panels. Visually, the case has grown on me as well. I wasn't completely sold at first, but the mix of dark tones and subtle wood accents hits a nice middle ground. It's not trying too hard, but it does work. So far, this case is ticking a lot of right boxes: airflow, accessibility and modularity, and the price is fair too. But now let's put all that airflow to the test. We'll run through our standard test bench and see how it performs thermally in both default and CPU optimized configurations. Let's start with the case fan set to 100%. This case immediately becomes the loudest that we've ever tested. Not by a huge amount, but it's gone past 52 dBA in our stock mode. But it also means it delivers solid performance, especially on the GPU side. We've also tested it in the CPU mode, where the two large fans at the front are in the topmost positions and found no difference in performance for the CPU, but a drastic GPU temperature spike of about 4 degrees. When we're noise normalized to 40 dBA, we got the same results in terms of both modes having the same CPU performance, but you can see that in stock mode we have one of the best temperatures of the graph. Those 270mm fans at the front provide plenty of airflow across the case, and two extra fans for the GPU certainly keep the temperature low. Which leads us to a solid conclusion. The Lancool 217 is a case that might not scream premium at first glance, but it really earns your respect once you build in it and start testing. The airflow is excellent, even out of the box, and while it gets loud at full speed, it also delivers top-tier thermal performance, especially for the GPU, which is often overlooked in the airflow-focused designs. The modular fan setup makes it easy to tweak for your needs, and the toolless fan mounts are generally convenient. Swapping between default and CPU mode takes just a few minutes, and while the thermal gains for the CPU mode were minimal in our testing, it's nice to have the flexibility. Just be aware of the GPU trade-off. For around $120, this case brings thoughtful engineering, subtle styling, and surprisingly refined build experience. If you're after high-performance mid-tower with great cooling potential, usable features, and don't mind skipping the RGB, the Lancool 217 is well worth considering. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Would you prefer the default setup or optimize for CPU cooling instead? Thanks for watching. If you think this case might be what you need, check out the link below for more details. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.